I'm a corporate vice president in Microsoft Azure, specializing in cloud native, open source development and DevOps on Azure. I'm also a co-founder of the Kubernetes open source project, and I'm here today to talk to you about how you can have enterprise-grade Kubernetes on Azure. So let's get into it. Here's the basic agenda. I want to talk a little bit about the key trends that we're seeing in the cloud native space, kind of a motivation for why we think a lot about cloud native development, and especially in the enterprise context. I'm going to talk to you about how you can get up and running with Kubernetes. If you haven't played around with Kubernetes before, I'm going to show you just how easy it is to get started with Kubernetes on Azure. Going to talk a little bit about hybrid and edge, and we've got some exciting announcements for edge and AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service, because really a lot of businesses are looking to run Kubernetes, not just in the cloud, but actually on edge development as well. Talk how we can add efficiency to your operations and help you maintain a secure enterprise environment. And then talk about how actually we're seeing people build on top of Kubernetes, because Kubernetes is sort of not the end, but really the beginning of people's journeys into the development of cloud native applications. Right. When we think about Kubernetes, there's just been an incredible amount of momentum over the last few years, with the adoption really moving from the early adopter phase now through to the wide mainstream. And what that really means is that containers and Kubernetes are not the domain of hipster startups or the early trailblazers. They're really being the value of these approaches have been delivered to companies and enterprises of all sizes and all scales. Gartner is estimating that by 2022, 75% of global organizations will be running containerized applications in production. Tons and tons of people are using a managed Kubernetes service in the cloud. And of course, the Azure Kubernetes service has just been growing leaps and bounds, more and more users coming online, more and more production use cases. So all of this is really generating a ton of momentum, not just in Azure, but honestly in the broad ecosystem of cloud native development. And there's a tremendous amount of value that can be delivered to your enterprise from that ecosystem. When we think about Kubernetes as an orchestrator and as people using a managed Kubernetes orchestrator, the value for developers really comes from all of these different pieces coming together in a single control plane, in a single place where you can run your application. It starts with scheduling. And what scheduling means is just like when you run an application on your computer and it figures out which processor to run on. This Kubernetes scheduler is doing the same thing, but across a fleet of machines. So this ensures that your workload is distributed for reasons of failure tolerance, also potentially for reasons of regulatory compliance, PCI workloads, separating things out. That's where the affinity and anti-affinity comes in, so that your workload lands in the right locations for your business use cases. And that's all happening for you. You didn't have to say, oh, please don't run this workload on the same as that workload. Kubernetes understands the affinity and anti-affinity and actually just takes care of that sort of thing for the developer, reducing the complexity of building that application. But it's not just about scheduling the application. Kubernetes also actually is an active participant in running your system. And the way that I like to think about this is long ago when the Wright brothers were flying their airplane, there's a literal wire that goes between the control stick and the flight surfaces of the airplane. These days, every single airplane that's flown or a drone that's being driven by my children is driven with a computer in between, right? There's a computer that's interpreting the signals, whether it's an autopilot, whether it's the thing that keeps a drone balanced. There is online systems helping keep that plane stable. And Kubernetes is doing the same thing. The orchestrator is doing the same thing for your applications. It's constantly monitoring the health status of your application, and it is repairing it if it sees problems. It's failing over across machines if they fail. It's auto-scaling up if you've got a whole bunch of load, or auto-scaling down if you're lightly loaded and you need to reduce costs. There's all kinds of elements of making your application easier to run that Kubernetes is providing for you. And even beyond that, it's actually also providing the tools necessary to really build your application. And that includes easy interfaces to cloud networking, as well as the ability to do microservices and discover and connect to all the different services that your application may be made up of. And finally, doing version upgrades in a safe and reliable zero downtime way so that it's easy for you to go from last week's version of your application to this week's version of your application. So hopefully all of those things together in your enterprise context helps you understand why an orchestrator isn't just sort of the newest technology that everybody's talking about, but really something that takes away a lot of the heavy lifting that you would otherwise have to do for your application, and really allows you to focus on your business and on your the aspects of building your application related to that business. But of course, Kubernetes and that orchestrator by itself is not the only thing, right? So you actually there's a whole ecosystem of services that surround that development environment, that orchestration environment that you need to use, right? So especially in an enterprise context, things like security and governance, are critical to making sure that your application isn't just rolling out every week, but your application stays secure, your customer's data is protected, your regulatory regimes are obeyed. Similarly with things like identity, making sure that you have audit and tracking so that you know exactly what application accessed what. So it's no longer the case that you say something in my Kubernetes cluster accessed my database, but rather you know for certain that it was my front end that accessed my database, or it was my back end, or you can actually limit access so that your back end can talk to your database, front end can't, right? So those are all really important aspects of building an enterprise grade platform, and they go beyond Kubernetes. And then on the development side, we're talking about how do you go all the way from code in GitHub, all the way through, CI/CD and GitHub Actions to, an integrated development environment like VS Code, to monitoring of the application once it's rolled out. So there's this whole stack of services that you can, link up from Azure into a complete package of how you can run Kubernetes on the enterprise. All right, so this, I think, shows that it's not just about managing Kubernetes for you. It's actually about the complete set of tools that Azure makes available for cloud-native development that really make up what we mean when we say, enterprise-grade Kubernetes on Azure. I think this really kind of shows you in a nutshell what this enterprise-grade design means. From built-in best practices, which allow you to know exactly how to get started, especially if you're early to Kubernetes, all of the different pieces of security from container security all the way down through network DDoS protection, a bunch of things that allow you to get up and going quickly if this is your first foray into cloud-native development. And then finally, across all sorts of environments, you can have uniform governance and policy that makes sure that whatever the constraints are on your enterprise, be it regulatory or be it from your IT department, you can make sure that you can do cloud native, modern, agile development, but stay within the confines of the governance environment that you need to be in, and be compliant with all the right policies. And this just gives you a picture of all, of the specific services that we have that you can make available to you. I talked a little bit about all the development tools, including the Azure Container Registry, where you can push those applications, the things like Security Center, Azure Advisor to help you obey those best practices, obviously the Kubernetes service, our serverless container offering, the Azure Container Instances. If you are a Red Hat customer using OpenShift on-prem, there's an Azure version of OpenShift. There's Arc to allow us to manage across from Azure to hybrid. And I think the most important piece is actually also the open source community that we're developing, right? And I didn't really talk about this on the previous slides, but more and more one of the things that we're seeing is, enterprises don't just want to consume software. They actually want to participate in open source software. They want to see us participating in open source software. And partially that's because it gives you the confidence that if you need to do things on premise, that software is going to be available to you, or do things in other clouds, the same software is available to you everywhere. But partially also it's an acknowledgement that open source is the way of doing business in the cloud. And if you're going to be delivering solutions in the cloud, you better be participating in these open source communities like Helm, like Dapper, like Draft, like the Open Policy Agent. These are all places where Azure has been innovating, but we don't lock that innovation down to just Azure. We actually make it available in the open source community for people who are running Kubernetes anywhere. Of course, we do a really good job of integrating it and running it on Azure, and we can help you learn how to use it better. But we really believe that fostering a vibrant ecosystem is a critical component of running cloud-native applications well. All right, I wanted to take a little bit to dive deeper into how you can get up and running with Kubernetes on Azure. So if this is your first time running Kubernetes, your first time getting started with Kubernetes, it can be a little bit intimidating, right? There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of command line stuff going on. And so I wanted to show you just how easy it is to get your very first cluster up and running so you too can play around with it. All right, so here's an illustration of the path that you go through to create a cluster on Azure, and we're actually going to dive in and take a little bit of a closer look at each of these stages. All right. So first off, when you're in the portal, you can just say add new resource, right? You see that plus button up there, or you see the Kubernetes service over in the middle. All you need to do to get started with Kubernetes is click on that button, right? And that takes you, or you can search through the containers in the marketplace. Once you go through and you decide you want to create a new Kubernetes cluster, you run through a wizard. You can select things like the basics about what resource group, what version of Kubernetes you want to run. You can go through a more detailed flow. And then eventually, you're going to be able to see, once that Kubernetes cluster is up and running, you're going to be able to see the resources themselves running inside that Kubernetes cluster. This is actually a relatively new development. It's out in preview today. It used to be that when you created a Kubernetes cluster, you couldn't see the resources that were inside that cluster because the Azure resources and the Kubernetes resources kind of lived in different worlds. We've built an integration together so that you can see the in the same portal you can see the Kubernetes workloads as well as the cluster itself. When we think about how you then go from a running cluster to doing your containerized development, we've got a bunch of tools as well that can help you get started. Obviously, we think you're going to put all of your code into GitHub and Git. You can create a dev cluster for doing that rapid iteration and inner loop, and be just pushing your code up to that dev cluster continuously, actually even pushing it from Visual Studio Code itself. And then once you're talking about doing a continuous delivery, you're going to be able to set up GitHub Actions or and use those build pipelines to build a container image, release pipelines to test the container image, and finally deploy strategies to get all of your application out to your various production clusters. And of course, that's all driven by images that you're pushing out to the Azure Container Registry. All right, so I wanted to give you a little bit of a demo of this and give you a sense for how easy it is. All right, so here we are in my AKS cluster. And what you're going to see on the left there is that resources pane. So we're going to look at the namespaces that I have running in my cluster. This shows you sort of all of the folders, if you will, that various teams can be putting their stuff into. There's also the workloads section, and workloads are all of the pods, all of the containers that are running on your cluster. And then finally the services, which are all the network kind of load balancers and service discovery that you have up and running. And you can see here this Azure Vote service. Now, if I go back to the workloads, I'm going to actually choose one of my workloads. These are deployments, which are things that have multiple replicas for redundancy and reliability. I'm going into that same voter service that I saw, and what you can see here is I have 2 replicas of that application. And now actually I can go and look at the YAML, the actual specification, and look, I'm editing in the browser, editing the configuration. I see the differences that I'm going to make, and I say, yes, I want to apply this. So not only am I viewing my cluster, but I'm actually editing my cluster at the same time. Took replicas down to 1. There was only 1 replica. And so now you've seen that we can actually both view and edit our Kubernetes configurations in a GUI. So hopefully that shows you just how easy it is to start interacting with Kubernetes in the Azure portal. Now, long term, of course, we think people are going to move towards the command line, towards continuous delivery. But especially when you're just getting started with Kubernetes, having that graphical integration is just a really great way to get going. All right. So when we think about Kubernetes, one of the other real value props that people are finding is the ability to run a consistent environment all around the world, whether it's in physical machines on other clouds or in Azure. You can have the exact same Kubernetes and the exact same Kubernetes experience. You can use things like unified RBAC, unified policy, Azure monitoring, Azure Active Directory, all of these things through Azure Arc And Kubernetes means that you can target all sorts of different environments, from Azure Stack, physical, bare metal on-premise, multi-cloud environment, and then, of course, the thing that we're announcing today that we're really excited about, which is AKS on Azure Stack HDI. So you can run AKS on-premise or at the edge in any kind of hardware that you want to run. All right. So when we think about Azure Stack HDI, it is hybrid by design, so that you can, from the ground up, be running on-premise. It is consistent with the Azure Kubernetes service, so that it provides you exactly with the same runtime, so that you have that knowledge that an application that you build for one environment is going to run in the new environment. Because it's Azure Stack HDI, it's very familiar for Windows applications. And because, of course, it's built by Azure, it's got all the built-in security that you would expect. Now, if you're getting started with HDI, there's a whole bunch of different solutions that you can think on for hardware, whether it's from a remote branch office all the way through to data center modernization. Lots of different choices in terms of hardware that you can get started with on HDI. So this is really showing you that we're taking Kubernetes not just from in the cloud, but actually running all the way onto this metal that you can purchase as well. Let's take a look at a demo of Azure Stack HDI. So here I am in my Windows Admin Center. This is running locally on a Windows machine. And I've jumped into a particular installation. And you can see here I have this extension, which is the Azure Kubernetes service. And so now I can actually create an Azure Kubernetes service on this HCI cluster. I'm going through the various connections. I'm actually creating what's known as the target or the management cluster, which is going to allow me to then create other Kubernetes clusters. So this is sort of the cluster that contains all of the daemons and all of the other infrastructure necessary. And so now that I've done that, I can actually say add or create resources, go over here and create a Kubernetes cluster. This is for an end user cluster where my workload is going to run. And what you'll notice is that the user interface to create this cluster is entirely identical to the user interface that I use in production Azure. Right? So the same options. I'm going to choose subscriptions. I'm going to do, give my cluster a name, choose the Kubernetes version that I want to run. So again, this consistency is about running workload. It's a consistency about the user interface, so that if you learn how to use Kubernetes on-premise in HCI, or you learn how to use Kubernetes in the cloud, that knowledge is going to transfer. Right? So here we go. We've actually gone all the way through, and we're going to create the Kubernetes cluster. And so once we have created that cluster, we can actually integrate that cluster with Arc. And so we'll actually be able to see in the portal the cluster that we've created on that Azure Stack HDI. Right, so I hope that really gives you an illustration of the consistency that's available between AKS in the cloud and AKS in Azure Stack HDI, as well as the promise of Arc in connecting those two environments together for seamless management. So when we're thinking about management, one of the most important pieces of that is ops and governance. Because really, when you have all these clusters spread out all over the place, Cloud Native was supposed to reduce the number of snowflakes you had. It's supposed to make everything more consistent, more immutable, easier to manage. But of course, if you have hundreds of clusters running all kinds of different versions of software, you haven't really made the problem any better, right? So we really focus on consistent operations and governance as the way that you can fix these problems. So one of the ways that we can really do this is with tools like Azure Policy, right? So what Azure Policy allows us to do is ensure that all of your clusters are exactly the same from a single point of contact. And you can receive, audit reports. If a cluster is out of compliance, when you know which cluster is out of compliance, you know where to go to fix it. Similarly, Azure Monitor can do health and performance metrics for your clusters anywhere, so that you can get a consistent dashboard, consistent logging experience, whether it's an on-premise cluster or whether it's Azure Kubernetes service cluster. You can have not just policy enforce things on those clusters, but actually also the visibility from Azure Monitor in order to understand exactly what's going on. And these are all run as Azure services, so you don't have to do anything to run them yourself. You can simply add them to your clusters and gain the benefit of all of those services. I think in addition to the work delivering cloud native application development, one of the most amazing things that we've seen is the ways in which people are taking Kubernetes and using it as the foundational platform to build other platforms, right? So, I would say that Kubernetes by itself is actually not the most developer-centric, not the most developer-friendly platform that's out there. And so when people are thinking about doing developer productivity on top of Kubernetes. Kubernetes does a lot to make it easier to run your applications, but it doesn't do a ton to make it easier to build your applications. And so when people are looking at Kubernetes, they're saying, hey, look, we can actually take this environment and then we can build something on top, right? So let's take a look at a couple of examples of how people are doing that. So one of the first examples of this is how Bosch is running their service on top of Kubernetes. Now, Bosch obviously does a lot of different things, but in this particular context, we're talking about how they build componentry for cars. And they've built up a service, an API, that does wrong way detection. So what it does is it goes and it detects from the sensors in your car, it detects whether you're driving a wrong way down a one-way street, which is obviously a pretty bad thing, right? And this is a service, this is an API that they make available to their customers, right? So here Bosch is saying, hey, look, AKS is a great platform for us to build another platform on top to expose services to our own customers, right? And so they were using things like Azure API management that make it super easy to do authentication, authorization, rate limiting. They're using Kafka on HD Insights to, for messaging, PostgreSQL and Azure Databricks for doing data analysis and machine learning. And all of this coming together on top of the Azure Kubernetes service so that their customers can access a simple to use API, right? So I think this is a great illustration of how all of the different pieces of Azure that we're talking about come together to run on the Kubernetes service. And of course, because everything's running on the Kubernetes service, it can go to all of these different environments like Azure Stack, on-premise, in the public cloud, and even edge environments. Now, I'd like to say that this is the point where we also say, like, well, we're not just the people who sell the Kubernetes service. We're actually also customers of the Kubernetes service as well. And we're seeing tons and tons of people within Microsoft start to build platforms on top, and even within Azure start to build platforms on top of the Azure Kubernetes service. So you can look at something like Azure Spring Cloud, which has gone generally available here at Ignite. It's a great environment if you're doing Java development, if you're used to Spring, and you want to have that sort of opinionated platform. You can have access to a developer-centric Java platform in Azure Spring Cloud. But of course, under the hood, that's built on top of Kubernetes and built on top of the Azure Kubernetes service, right? So, Bosch has used the Kubernetes service to build an API that they make available to their customers. Azure has also used the Azure Kubernetes service to build an environment for Java developers that makes it easier for you to build and deploy Spring-based applications. All right, so I hope that's given you a real sense for how to think about how Kubernetes, an enterprise-grade Kubernetes on Azure, can really transform the way that you build and deploy applications. And now you may be thinking, like, how can I get started with all of this? And so we've actually got a ton of really great resources for you to get started. In particular, we have resources from everyone from people who are just starting to learn about Kubernetes with our learning path and our What is Kubernetes videos, to some resources about how we build Kubernetes on top of Azure. If you're looking to make the case to your company, or you're looking to just understand how other people have been using Kubernetes, we have a bunch of case studies like the Bosch one that I just talked about, but many more as well about enterprises that have found success on top of the Azure Kubernetes service. We've got a bunch of experts who have the ability to sort of share their knowledge out with people, and we have those presentations as well as a bunch of demos like we saw earlier in the presentation. And finally, as you're making that transition to actually adopting Kubernetes yourself, we've got a cloud adoption framework for Kubernetes that's going to help you along the journey to go from maybe on-premise running in machines with monolithic development all the way through to microservices, Kubernetes, and cloud native on Azure. So hopefully that all, no matter where you are in your Kubernetes journey, all of those resources are going to help you connect the dots and find success deploying your enterprise's applications out onto the Azure Kubernetes service. All right, and so now we're going to take a time to sort of have some open discussion, and I'm going to answer a few questions from our moderator, Kavita.
Hey, Brendan, thanks for taking through us. Really loved the AKS resource view, and I'm so excited about AKS HDI. So we have a couple of questions for you here. So one of the question is, in the current world where customers are trying to respond to the changes in a cost-effective manner, what are some of the best practices that they have to apply in a cloud-native application to adopt the changes?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple different pieces to this. One is obviously Kubernetes allows you to pack your applications onto fewer resources and drive up the utilization of those resources. So whereas previously people may have been running applications on machines that were 10% utilized, they can use containers to pack a bunch of those machines onto, or those applications onto the same machine and maybe drive the utilization up to 50% or 60% utilized, or maybe even more. Although I would also say people sometimes take it too far, right? And they actually don't do careful resource. They maybe don't do careful resource planning, and they don't give the applications enough resources, and they pack them really, really tightly. And just like a bunch of people sort of squished onto a subway car, at a certain point, it becomes too much. And so I think one of the things that's really important as you think about efficiency is to yes, absolutely think about packing lots of things onto your cluster, but also be careful and mindful of exactly what the resources are that the cluster need, or that the containers need. I think also making sure you understand the tools that are available to you, whether it is pod auto-scaling in the Kubernetes cluster, or cluster auto-scaling as provided by the Azure Kubernetes service. These are great options for making sure that you've right-sized your application and you've right-sized your cluster to drive operational efficiency. That's a lot of what I think about.
Yeah, awesome. I have a next question here. So we talked about some number of Azure-specific capabilities for Kubernetes. How should people think when to use cloud vendor solution versus an on-prem solution?
It's going to really depend on the company. I think obviously I kind of believe that a cloud solution tends to be the right default choice. I'd much rather have the cloud take responsibility for managing my stuff for me than having to manage it myself. And the cloud can do it definitely in a more cost-efficient way. So I would lean towards cloud first. But of course, for a lot of different reasons, business reasons or regulatory reasons, there's a need to be on-premise. Maybe it's because you're a shipping company and you literally have ships that you need your applications to run on, but that ship is going to be in the middle of the ocean, right? Obviously, that ship isn't going to be in our data center, although it may sail over one of our underwater data centers. So in that world, you're going to have a business need to be on-premise. Or maybe there's a regulatory, governmental compliance, regulatory reason why you need that data to be on-premise. Or maybe it's just, there's a database that your company feels has data locality that needs to be on-premise. Those tend to be the reasons why people stay on-premise. But the great thing about AKS on HDI or Azure Arc and Kubernetes in general is you can use the exact same tools no matter where and what environment those applications are running in.
Yeah. So attached to that, what are some of the biggest challenges managing this multiple clusters? And what should people do to make it easier?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges that we see people running into is the sort of the snowflake problem, right? We used to talk about snowflake servers where each server was beautiful and unique and you never really knew how to replace any one of them. Now we have the same problem, but it's with Kubernetes clusters. So, every cluster has a different version, has different, monitoring software installed. It's very hard to have that consistency that you need to really manage at scale. And that's why we've used Azure Arc and Azure Policy and GitOps to provide you with like that global single touch point, right? So with policy, you can push out a consistent environment across all of your clusters. With the GitOps, it means that you can make a change in a single Git repo and have that update be, sort of rippled out to all of your clusters, no matter what. So like when I think about managing lots of clusters, that's what you really want. It's that sort of at scale motion where one action can control a bunch of different clusters in a single place, right? So we amplify and accelerate the ability of your operator, so they're not doing the same task over and over and over again, as well as driving sort of audit and understanding of state of compliance, so that you know what each cluster looks like.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, maybe we can go with the last question.
Sure.
Awesome. So where do you see Kubernetes project going in the next few years?
Well, I think Kubernetes itself as a project, I think it's actually kind of a very stable kind of environment. So I think that, the APIs, the core APIs that make up Kubernetes, I don't see them changing a lot. I don't see a lot of additions coming. I mean, obviously we make improvements and refinements, but I think the most exciting thing is the ecosystem that is going to run above Kubernetes and on top of Kubernetes. And we're already seeing that with operators and extensions and service mesh, all these kinds of capabilities that people are building, not in Kubernetes, but on top of Kubernetes. And I think that's only going to continue. I'm really excited about Dapper, which is going to provide a bunch of modular building blocks, a standard library, if you will, for building applications on top of Kubernetes. But in general, I think that we've spent a lot of time thinking about operations in the cloud native ecosystem and thinking about running applications. I think we need to spend the next 5 years thinking about building applications and how we take it from distributed system wizards building applications to citizen developer no code kind of solutions that can actually build these reliable cloud native applications. So I'm really excited to see that happen, because it's going to really democratize distributed systems, which has kind of always been the goal.
Yeah, same here. Awesome. Back to you, Brendan.
Cool. Thank you.